All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. Since David Tepper's stewardship as the team owner of the Carolina Panthers, this franchise has rapidly become the worst run organization in the National Football League. And I'm here to tell you, second place ain't even that close. The Panthers are in their seventh year under Tepper. And during that time, the Panthers have never had a winning record in a season, while they've lost at least 10 games in each of the last 5 years. Tepper has had seven different head coaches on his regime, and none of them made it through three full seasons. And it just continues to go from bad to worse for the Panthers, as just 2 games into this season, head coach Dave Canales has benched starting quarterback Bryce Young in favor of the veteran Andy Dalton. And to give you an idea of how bad that this is, the Panthers last year moved heaven and earth to take Young first overall, which included with them parting with multiple picks, and it also included them not having their first round pick this past spring, which of course was the first overall pick in this year's draft, and that pick was used by the Chicago Bears on quarterback Caleb Williams. Now, last year, when the Panthers took Bryce Young first overall, most of the people in the organization wanted to take CJ Stroud, but they were overruled by David Tepper, who wanted Young. And included on that list of people who did not want Bryce Young is now former Panthers head coach Frank Reich, who the veteran head coach was brought in last year. And after just 11 games and a 1-10 start, Frank Reich was let go. So my thing is this: make no mistake about it, that Carolina has a huge David Tepper problem that they simply cannot escape. I mean, you look at it. 2018, they went 7-9. That was one of their best seasons, okay, under Tepper. 2019, 5-11. 2020, 5-11. 2021, 5-12. 2022, 7-10. And after the slow start that year with Matt Rule as the head coach, Matt Rule was let go, and Steve Wilkes was the interim head coach. And Carolina did show signs of life that year with Steve Wilkes as the head coach. Sam Darnold started playing better at quarterback, and of course, the playmaking ability at wide receiver of DJ Moore. What happened after that? DJ Moore would go on to be a part of the trade package that Carolina sent to Chicago to get the first overall pick last year. So you're talking about DJ Moore, your first round pick last year, which was ninth overall, your first round pick this past year, a second round pick last year, as well as a second round pick for 2025. And that second round pick for 2025, if you're Chicago, is looking very juicy, because more than likely it's probably going to be one of the top three picks of round number two. And usually, with what we've seen in the NFL draft over the years, an early second round pick can be a steal, because more often than not, you're going to get a guy that should have been taken in round number one. You just look at this whole thing, and you hear the news about Bryce Young being benched. Eh, I mean, it's very difficult, okay, to put a positive spin on it, because you look at first year head coach Dave Canales, who just made this decision. He was brought in to quote unquote fix Bryce Young. And now you're going in a different direction here after just 2 games. It is a really bad look for this organization. And for my money, I know that Bryce Young was the first overall pick last year. Why not just go to the veteran from last year and have the veteran kind of, warm the seat, if you will? Because, like I said before, every situation is different when it comes to the National Football League. Everybody is not meant to come in and be a starter right away, especially at the quarterback position, regardless if you draft that guy first overall or not. And, you had Andy Dalton on the roster last year, but you had Bryce Young go out there and start 16 games. And Andy Dalton has not had a bad NFL career. Of course, the bulk of it was spent with the Cincinnati Bengals. We're talking about a guy who was a Pro Bowler. He's made the playoffs multiple times. So he's a guy who's been there, seen it, and done it. But you know what? Why not make this decision last year? This is what it should have been done. I know Dave Canales was not there, but nonetheless, this is just a bad look from a bad organization. And my thing is this: you bring in Bryce Young. Okay, I know that the expectations were there, yes, but what talent did you put around him? This is not a CJ Stroud situation with the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans have done an immensely good job as far as putting talent around CJ Stroud in comparison to what the Carolina Panthers have done with Bryce Young in that same period of time. It's one of those situations we may never know how good that Bryce Young could have been in the National Football League because the Panthers are ruining this kid very quickly. 2-16 as a starter in the National Football League. He's not hit 60 completion percentage of 60, 11 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And it's one of those where the Panthers looked god awful, terrible last week against the New Orleans Saints in every phase of the game. They didn't look that much better yesterday against the Los Angeles Chargers, almost said San Diego. But nonetheless, where do you go from here if you're a franchise? Because Andy Dalton is clearly not your future. Maybe Dave Canales is seeing this and trying to slow things down for Bryce Young. I'm not sure. But again, the bigger thing for me is the Panthers are simply not a good run franchise right now. And the buck starts and stops with team owner David Tepper. For me, you look at the Panthers and you think about what they were under former majority owner Jerry Richardson. They were a team that competed. They competed in the NFC South. They won 2 NFC championships. Okay. This was a Panthers team that, as an expansion squad coming into the league in 95, by 96, they had gotten to the NFC championship game that year. And you just look at how things have unraveled so quickly, so badly for this organization. They've parted with talented players in their prime. You think about Christian McCaffrey, you think about DJ Moore, you think about Brian Burns. All of these guys were traded and they really never got their true value back in a trade. And on top of that, they've done a horrific job of drafting. And when you miss on early picks in the NFL draft, it sets you back. When you make the wrong pick for a head coach, it sets you back. When you make the wrong pick, especially a quarterback, it sets your franchise back immensely. And this is why the Carolina Panthers are where they are right now. And I'll tell you like this: they are the odds-on favorite to have the first overall pick in next year's draft as well. You look at it, the last 2 drafts, especially by not having your picks, and of course, not putting a team around Bryce Young and maybe missing on this Bryce Young pick has really put this franchise behind the 8 ball. I don't know if Bryce Young is going to be able to salvage his NFL career, and I darn sure don't think that it's going to happen in Charlotte with this organization. He just walked into a bad situation. I'm not going to go out there and say that Bryce Young was the next coming of Tom Brady. Okay. But you think about the talent that he played with at the University of Alabama, and you go from here to here in regards to what you played with at Alabama and what the situation that you're walking into with the Panthers. And he basically walked into a bad organization where he was expected to be the savior, and the savior he's not. So I look at this situation; it has gone from bad to worse for the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young and David Tepper. And I got news for you: it ain't getting better anytime soon. You look at this Panthers team right now, and the opponents are basically licking their chops because everybody wants to get a piece of the Panthers because that's how bad that they've become right now. And it is a crying shame. And again, like I said, the buck stops with team owner David Tepper. Uh, what can you say? I mean, bad organizations continue to make bad decisions. Everybody was not on the same page about taking Bryce Young. You have a head coach who was brought in to fix said quarterback, and 2 games into that, he is now benched that said quarterback. Where the Panthers go from here, I'm not sure. Is there any silver lining in this? I'm not going to say that either. But the bottom line is the Carolina Panthers are making a compelling case to be the worst run organization in the National Football League. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.